Hello, hi, hello. I'm Kingdom of Fire, and it's my birthday tomorrow, so I get to post whatever the hell I want to. Today, I want to explain everything that went into this OC of mine named Dimitri. He used to be an SCP OC. It was a very complex deal, and I don't think he's one anymore. He's more just off-brand SCP, if that's even possible. Now, Dimitri isn't even his own main character. He started life as a pathetic little side character with one joke. The joke was not the joke I associate with him nowadays of wanting to explode the moon. It was actually that he didn't think the city of Chicago didn't exist. And every time someone tried to talk to him, they too would be convinced that Chicago was not a real place. Including the mayor of Chicago. It wasn't very funny in my opinion. It was for like 2 days, and then it got very tiring, you know? The woman next to him? That's Magdalena. Magdalena started life as just a side character to a side character. I needed to give the dude a reason to not murder everyone. And so Magdalena was born as a sort of voice of reason. Someone to say, Dimitri, that's dumb as fuck. I think that fits her character very well. She's a very no-nonsense type, and she works as a nurse. Dimitri and Magdalena got upgraded to more significant characters when I finally decided on who the exact main character of the stupid little ensemble piece I had planned, it's not one anymore, was actually going to be. It's a little guy named Andre. And his life's dedication is figuring out who his ancestors were. Dimitri and Magdalena were originally going to be someone who knew his ancestor. But I thought it would be funnier if these two insane idiots were his ancestors. And they were just under his nose this entire time. Now, this sort of a thing where you learn more about the older people in your life, and it reveals something surprising about them, is actually a theme that really speaks to me, considering everything I learn about my family isn't from their family itself. I wake up, someone tells me something insane, and I'm like, damn, why didn't the dude that it happened to tell me that? I tend to draw them a lot more often than the actual main character because I don't actually know how to deal with the main character anymore. It's sort of become these two and their stupid, messed up love story. So let's get into the backstory of the love story, because I love that bit. Dimitri was born in what is now central Belarus. But of course, back in his day, it wasn't central. It was west. Because Dimitri was born in the 30s. A long fucking time ago. He and his family did not get along. Like, at all. It was a very dysfunctional situation. So, of course, when the Germans roll in, destroying the entire country, Dimitri runs off and he joins the army without anyone knowing. Because fuck you, Ivor. Ivor does the typical things any well-adjusted, literal teenager would do in times of war. You know, murder, drink, gamble. And then he goes home. And home isn't fucking there anymore. Why? His dumbass dad, Ivor, started a fucking cult. This is where a lot of the SCP influences can be seen, because Ivor Colas is goddamn insane. I'm like 90% sure that's not how you pronounce any of those names, like surname and all, but it fits Ivor as a character to not know how to pronounce his own goddamn name, because he's changed it that many times. This dude is fucking scammer supreme, and it's honestly amazing that he created a son that cannot actively lie. So Dimitri packs up all his shit, and he moves across the country to Moscow. Because where else would the average now Soviet man go? Didn't even have a choice in the matter. He was going to become a Soviet citizen whether he wanted to or not. And there he meets the love of his life, Magdalena Lewandowski, a Polish Jew. He doesn't really care about that bit, but despite being raised Orthodox Catholic, he's in love. And he feels like he could fly for the first time in a long time. They get married, and they try and have kids. They try and have kids a lot. It doesn't really work, though. Until it does. And that's the day it all goes to shit. Again! Due to the fact that human rights is not as developed as they are nowadays, Dmitri gets fucking kidnapped by his own government! Hooray! They sign him up for a little project to achieve immortality. And you want to take a fucking guess how they do that? Through painful surgery! Of course it's painful surgery! It's the 60s by this point! That's all they know how to do! And they turned him into a robot. Yeah, he's been a robot this entire time. I really like designing robot characters. They speak to me on a personal level as just an individual. I like robots. Dmitri is an incredibly old-fashioned robot that was the peak, the top, the cream of the crop back in his day, but now he just looks uncanny, uncomfortable, and probably needs to be put down at a vet. I put this guy through a lot at this point, so it's time we talk about Magdalena. Magdalena is obviously heartbroken that her husband has disappeared without a trace. And she fucking dies. She dies because she's not getting the help she needs. Doctors, even though she's a nurse, ignore her. And they don't like her. And so, guess who the fuck shows up? Good old Ivor, the cult leader. He tries to murder her to complete his own goals of letting everyone go. By this point, he thinks Dmitri's dead, so he thinks that if he kills her, everyone from the Kolas family will move on to the great beyond, wherever that may be, because it sure ain't fucking heaven. As her blood spills on the street, Ivor has a rare moment where he takes pity upon a child. Wow, so noble, so gracious. Why couldn't you do that for the 2 children you already had, you dumb fuck? And he saves the child from certain death in his dying mother's arms. Magdalena's blood, all over the street at this point, makes its way to someone else's secret project that isn't affiliated with the government, and her soul is imbued to a clay golem. Years pass, and nothing really happens in the way of anything. Dmitri's child, a daughter I'm pretty sure at this point in the story, although that is subject to change because they won't be appearing, goes on. They have their own life away from Ivor, and they eventually have a child that has Andre. And that's where things go to shit. Again, Andre is subject to whatever this universe's equivalent of the Anderson Company is. I'll be linking a video about them in the description. Don't worry about it, it's just an SCP thing. Years pass. Ivor's plans continuously fail because he's a moron and I don't like him. And eventually, the 3 meet again. I never actually reconsidered what the company holding them would be if it wasn't the SCP Foundation, I'm sorry. The events of the story are something I haven't completely figured out yet. I've got my prologue and I've got my ending. The ending is that everyone, Ivor, Dmitri, Magdalena, the rest of the Kolas family, move on and die. Because it's only humane at this point. I'm not keeping that poor little Meow Meow alive for the rest of history. Dimitri's already insane. He doesn't need more trauma. I like giving Ivor his comeuppance, so I like to think that, well, I like to think it's my thing. It's my OCs. I can make him do whatever I want. He's gonna feel regret. it's gonna be his fault that his family has completely fallen apart and his little society of cult members is completely and utterly broken. Because he couldn't be nicer to his fucking son. And he couldn't be nicer to his grandson and his new daughter-in-law. Because he was a little jerk. Everything's gone wrong for him. And I like that. I like when he gets his comeuppance. I plan to make him suffer. Suffer as almost as much as I make Dimitri suffer. It's very satisfying to me for some reason to make Dimitri suffer. And now I'm just going to add a little aside about the rest of Ivor's children and also his wife. The wife is not solid out yet. You know, I haven't figured out what Dimitri's mom is like yet. But I do know what his sister is like. A creepy little girl who never grew up quite right thanks to her father's endless meddling. Yeah, I decided she was themed around black holes and gas giants because she draws everything in. You know, like how babies do. She got coddled a lot. Ivor feels sort of bad because to start his cult, he decided murder was okay. You know, like, infanticide. Fucking asshole. Why did I make him do this stuff if I hate him? Because it just makes him a more interesting character. She never really matured, because she can't. I always choose to sort of depict her as a sleeping baby. Because she is. Dimitri did care about her a lot. He doesn't really know what to think of her current state. 'Cause what would you think if your sister was a mindless monster? Like, be serious. What would you think? One tiny AU I draw a lot is if Dimitri had been at home when the cult thing went down. He's a relatively formless ghost. Not a lot to him. I don't know why. He's more of a baby blanket and a mobile. For the baby. The baby that doesn't grow up. And neither will he. Alright, I'm done yapping. This video is like 12 minutes long. By the way, Dimitri can juggle.